Hello everybody, this is Money Mom. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the Great Depression, but instead of me telling you how people save money during that time, because there's a lot of videos on that topic, I thought I would share with you just some basic knowledge about the Great Depression, but share with you some things that you may not know that I recently learned about the Great Depression, and a few of these things surprised me. Let me get started and talk about it. I hope you're enjoying this history series. I will tell you this, I'm enjoying it because I'm learning a little bit each week. So I want to mention first that the Great Depression, and many of you probably know this, was from basically 1929 to the late 30s, which was a long time. It has been said that the unemployment rate during that time was 24.9%, but there wasn't a great way to track it back then. I personally, and I could be wrong, but it could have been actually higher than that. So I will say that. Many people always mention and act like everyone suffered during the Great Depression. But this is one thing I learned. More millionaires were being made during the Great Depression than any other time. Because I will tell you this, no matter how bad the economy is out there, there's always a way to make money. No matter what the economy's like, there is always a way. As a matter of fact, there were some businesses being built during that time. One profitable business that I will mention is some people that had money would buy food up that wasn't being used, and they would sell it, essential food, basic, inexpensive food. One of the companies, for example, was Campbell's. Campbell's soup was very inexpensive to make and to buy, and that would be a staple that people would buy. So there were businesses that would sell food staples, and so people could get some inexpensive food for their family. So that would be an example of how someone made money. Another thing that would happen during the Great Depression is people were wanting cash right away. So they were selling their homes dirt cheap because they needed that cash to be able to live and feed their families and to live off for a while. And so what they would do is sell those homes to people that had money, and those people would rent out those homes to people that needed a place to stay. Maybe they would rent it out to, for an affordable price, or they may have those homes, fix them up, and maybe sell them down the road later when people did have money. So that was another way that people did make money. I mentioned this before, but if you owned a farm, not if you were in debt on a farm, if you owned a farm right out, many times those folks did okay and didn't go hungry during the Depression. I think there's a lot of interesting things that happened during the Depression. Not everybody invested and lost money in the market, but if you had money at the banks, what would happen is that people would go and want to get their money out. Let's say they had $100. You would basically get 10 cents on the dollar. So if you had $100, they may only give you $10. And people were kind of doing like a run on the banks. And so many banks started closing. Many people wonder, how did this depression even start? I think there's a long answer for that, but many things that would start it would be deflation, not inflation, people overspending, a lot of debt, speculation, and I think a big reason that caused the Great Depression is fear. I think that is a big thing. When people start yelling fearful things or something that could or might happen, and you start saying that out there like, oh, you better go buy this now or else there's not going to be any left. What happens? All of a sudden you have empty grocery, aisles, and you don't have any more toilet paper or things like that, because they put the fear out there, and then people listen to it, and then everybody becomes reactionary, and then they start going out there and making decisions based on fear. And I know many of you will agree with me on this. A lot of decisions that are made when you're in that fearful state many times are not good decisions. So I think that's many of the things that happened during the Great Depression. But the thing I wanted to leave you with is this. Not everybody suffered during the Great Depression, and some people actually profited. But those that were struggling a little bit, they did whatever they could to bring in money. They did not waste a thing. We know that. They had gardens. They shared what they had with others. They did any kind of work. But remember, back then they didn't have a minimum wage, so they could cut your wages, and they didn't have all the social programs, so people just had to figure it out and work together to be able to get through this tough time. If you have anything you want to share about the Great Depression, maybe share some things below about the Great Depression that you think many of us might not know and we might be surprised at. What's something that you learned about the Great Depression that surprised you? the thing that I was surprised at was that more millionaires were made during the Depression than any other time in history. I had to verify that, and that was really surprising to me. So, and I was surprised that there were a lot of people that actually got wealthy during the Depression too. Not everyone suffered. So I want to hear from you in the comments below. What do you know about the Great Depression you want to share with us? That's all for now. Next week we will talk about what got us out of the Great Depression and go into that. That's all. I love you, appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.